Alright, so this is going to be a guide on how to properly submit game requests onto speedrun.com. So, getting right into it, the first thing you're going to need is your account needs to be 7 days old at least before you make a game request. If you're watching this video though, I'm assuming your account's already 7 days old. So the second thing you need before you even make a game request at all is you're going to need 2 connections on your profile. For example, here I have 3 usable connections. This fourth one is to a website that doesn't have private communications, but these other 3 do, and that's what site staff are looking for. So I have Discord, Twitch, these are the main ones. YouTube kind of counts, but I suggest not using that as one. Another good one would be Steam. Um, so yeah, you want to have at least 2 connections. And then you also need two-factor authentication uh, activated on your account, which you can do that by going into settings, and it should be the very first setting. Make sure you get that set up. Okay, so uh, in order to go into the support hub and request a game, you want to go to more and then click on support hub. I already have it pulled up here. So I'm going to go into game series request, new game or series, and new game. So this will give you like a full overview on uh, kind of what they're looking for in game requests. This is the stuff that matters right here though for right now. So 7 days account, 2 social media contacts, um, detailed game request rules, moderation rules, some pretty simple stuff, and additional notes which I'll be covering later on. Um, so then there's going to be this what we do not accept list. This is pretty outdated, so I wouldn't really go exactly off of this. The only things that they really don't accept are non-video game activities, high score based, geography games, interactive movies. Everything else here does get accepted, so you just need to be pretty specific in your additional notes field on what makes your game special over other games like Minesweeper. There's a few of these on the site, but you just need to give a reason why your Minesweeper is different from the other ones. Um, so yeah, let's get right into it. The first thing you're gonna want to do, like right away, is put your game name, and you want the spelling to be exact. So my game request is gonna be SRX Sky Racing Experience. Uh, in order to have no typos, I'm just gonna copy paste this, which that's what you should do. Where is it here? And just like that, that's easy enough. Um, if I was to have this as SRX and it's spelled, or sorry, SXR, there we go, that would be rejected automatically. So having correct spelling is key for your game not to be rejected. These first 3 fields, your game can just be rejected for if you don't have them filled in correctly. So the next thing is going to be your external page describing the game. Wikipedia is always the best bet to go, just because it gives a lot of information about your game. But if you're doing smaller games, uh, I suggest using something like itch.io, Steam, or just wherever you download the game from, as long as it has the release date on it and a little bit of a description. So here there's a description, um, and there's a release date and download. So it has everything that you need. So I'm going to copy and paste this here. And then there's some stuff on here like that I'll be explaining in the additional notes field. But it's important to be linking these pages that have all this information. A video to your run. So I have my video here. Um, as you can see, I'm playing the game, going through the. No, I'll just do this. Playing through the game, showing off some gameplay. So what I'd suggest here is if your game is over 30 minutes long, don't submit the whole run, I should say. If it's possible, you want to submit it into segments, into like a digestible segment, I should say. Here was a game request I did not too long ago for Forza Motorsport 4. Um, the full game run of this is like 15 hours long, something ridiculous like that. And I'm not playing all that in one sitting. So I did a 25-minute run of one of the sections of the game. It's called Division in this case, and I just submit that, and the game was accepted. And I clarified that here, and I said it's the first year. Um, and I just said it wasn't the full run. And so if you're gonna be going down that route, make sure you clarify that in the additional notes field. If your game is under 30 minutes, you should submit the full run, and you should submit it to the main category. So for most games, it's going to be full completion, um, or any percent, whatever you want to call it. You'll be submitting that here. If your game is under 5 minutes, you're going to need to explain yourself in the additional notes field, and I'll get to that in just a second. So you have these three things done. You want to have your date of first release. So that's why I use this website. It gives it right here. So May 1st, 2019. If you don't know and it's not on the website, you can always look it up. It's pretty easy to find for most games. So May 1st, 2019. Okay, so this next field, you don't need to really worry about it too much, because the main ones that are used are web game and mobile. But I really wouldn't suggest using these right now, as the unofficial tagging system is not very good. And so until they fix it and like series mods are able to use these tags again, then it's just going to be limiting the exposure of your game. The rest of these you don't really need to worry about, except for maybe pre-release. That's going to be like a demo of a game or a fan game. And then if you do use a fan game, you check this box and put in, let's say I was doing a Super Mario fan game, I would just mark that here. Okay, so the additional notes field, this is going to be the most important section for getting your game actually added. I already wrote one, I'm going to copy paste it. Okay. Here you're going to want to, well, like it says, propose categories, rules, plans for the board. That's a general idea, but you want to give pretty game specific information here. So let's say your game, well, for my game specifically, I don't know if anybody saw this on the site, but it says this download is for the solo version only. So I wrote here that this was done on the itch.io version, which has the same content, except it has no multiplayer mode and a few less drones. But it will not affect the speedrun of the game, it won't affect the leaderboard. I made that very clear early on because site staff will look at this and they might reject the game because of this. So some games might have very specific, I don't know, you might need to clarify yourself here about your game, especially if your game is under 5 minutes. Let's say I have a web game that's casually completed in under 2. You need to give a reason why this game should be tracked on the site and give reasons why it's not a generic, platformer or something. Um, yeah, so any game specific things or anything that could risk your run or your game getting rejected, put that first. I would also put if your game is not a full run and it's a segment, put that here first, or if you only sent in ILs. And I know some games, especially racing games, this tends to be the case where ILs are the main focus, so just give a couple examples of ILs, and I did that here. Where is it? For my Forza, another Forza request, right here. This is another video I did of ILs, and so I put that in the description, even though I did like a, a run here. Um, yeah, so if you need to show off any other categories other than the main run, put them here. So after this, I'm going to explain the categories, which I suggest that's the order you do it to. Explaining your main category, that is. So the main focus of this game will be to complete all time trials as fast as possible. So that's my definition of full completion of this game. Many games is going to be different than this. But explain what your main category is, and then how it's going to be time the rules for it. So mine's gonna be sum of IGT, define what that is, and any combination of drones will be allowed. So for this game, there's different vehicles that have different abilities that can be used on all the tracks, and I'm just basically saying I'm not restricting any of that here. In other games, maybe you're gonna have upgrades for your characters on like a platformer, for example. You could say here, oh, they're gonna be banned, or they're gonna be allowed, or there's gonna be a split between those categories. Be specific for that. You want to treat the site staff as if they're gonna be runners of this game. So inform them as if you were a new runner yourself too, and you wanted to know, how do I play this game? Like, what guidelines do I have to follow? Because that's one of the biggest issues with a lot of games is they do not clarify rules whatsoever, and then they end up with some issues on their board. So after this, I defined my secondary categories, and for me, that was just ILs. Um, if you have other main categories, Um, h- let's see. Where's the game where I have other main categories? Okay, so this one. Okay, so my main category was division runs, and then okay, so a second main or full game run category will be prologue race and all divisions. So I define what those are here, and I define what another full game category's rules will look like. All division runs will allow runners to play the game in separate sessions, very specific stuff. Um, Here I just said the IL page will consist of all time trials track and will be split into flap and full race. All I need to run will be allowed here. So this one was a pretty basic um, additional notes field, but it's because this game is very straightforward. Yeah, like from like a racing game standpoint, it's it's pretty standard, time trials, but it's a completely different format than most other games. In the case of like a platform, like a web game, I should say, this would be much longer because you're trying to give reasons why your platformer isn't too generic. Um, Big releases, you'll need good explanations here because they are normally taking or accepting these from trusted individuals. So you'll need to either have a community already and have proof of that, or give like very, very specific details on how you set up the board so that way the site staff know that the board isn't going into the wrong hands. Some issues that you kind of want to avoid is you don't want to keep this blank. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Make sure you define everything, like I said, under 5 minutes. Be very specific. And don't put in a game request here if there's a series for a game, because it's gonna automatically get rejected. For example, Roblox. So go to them first, and they generally have a more specific form you need to fill out for their game request, because they're more picky with their games. This is like a more open way of submitting games because there's a lot of different types of games that they have to go through. When it comes to the series, they're looking for one specific type of game, and so they're gonna be pretty specific. So yeah, just don't keep this blank and you'll be good. Site staff are pretty much, they're accepting a lot of games now, so you shouldn't be too worried about if your game gets rejected. But if it does for some reason or another, like your game being too generic, don't worry about it. Just go start a community for the game in like a Discord server in the forum. Track your runs on a Google Sheet. Um, and just try to get a community started that way. That's how a lot of games got added on the site back in May last year, like Among Us, for example. That's how that got on the site. So I hope this video was useful, and I might make a follow-up video after for how to set up a leaderboard.